First of all, I want to start out with a disclaimer that this video is based on research that I have done. It's not the most conclusive because some of the studies have not been able to provide ample feedback, and also any kind of energy work does not replace taking care of yourself. Going to your doctor's appointments doesn't replace regular doctor's visits, therapy visits, and whatnot. So please bear that in mind. Now, this video has taken me a while. I've wanted to do it for a while. I was finally guided to do it now. And it has taken me some time to put it together because I really wanted to do it right. I have restructured this video probably 4 or 5 times, and I still don't know if I have the right format. So I hope you bear with me, because the topic of this video is how Reiki treats PTSD. And my original intention was to gear it toward the veteran community because the VA covers what they call biotherapy, biotherapies, which includes Reiki. It includes a whole slew of energy work. I will have all the links in the description for you if you are a veteran, if you have a veteran that's a family member, or in some cases, some people just want more scientific information to really determine if these work, how they work, will they work for them, and all of that information will be available in the description for you, and I will make sure it's there. As I was doing this video, I did come to the realization that there are a number of people that would really benefit from knowing how Reiki treats PTSD, not just the veteran community, first responders, medical workers, emergency room doctors and nurses. I know people that have been in car accidents that suffer from PTSD. It's a very broad spectrum of what causes it, how people end up with it. Reiki is a form of energy work, and energy work works with uniting body, mind, and soul. Reiki is a meditative practice out of Japan that does that. It traditionally is thought to work with the light body, the etheric body, the aura. You'll hear the chakras often referred to in Reiki. And what it does is it balances the body, mind, and soul. And it helps to reconnect body, mind, and soul, or body, mind, emotions, and soul, depending on however you want to look at it. It's the 3 to 4 elements that we work with in energy work are the body, the mind, the emotions, and then soul. That's kind of my definition of what Reiki is. The way the VA defines what are biofield therapies is that the term energy medicine derives from the perceptions and beliefs of therapists and patients that there are subtle biologic energies that surround and permeate the body. It is suggested that these energies may be accessed in a variety of ways for diagnostic and therapeutic interventions. And it's a complementary medicine based on the belief that vital energy flows through the human body. So ki, chi, the meridians, that kind of the energy that flows through the body. The goal of energy healing is to balance the energy flow in the patient. It is used to reduce stress and anxiety and promote well-being. Energy healing is being studied in cancer patients to find out if it can improve quality of life, boost the immune system, and reduce the side effects. More often than not, I feel like a lot of people may be familiar with Reiki in the term of, or in the field of cancer research, cancer treatment, and whatnot, but it is being broadened and it is used to treat a number of things. Among PTSD, chronic pain, as well as a friend of mine did mention that it's also used in a lot of rehab centers for addiction. And in the future, hopefully I can give you more videos about those as well, but this is where we are right now. You may hear Reiki referred to as the universal conscious energy. And it's where the healer channels the God consciousness or universal healing energy to help the body remember how to heal itself. That's what a lot of energy work is. It's that you're going to a practitioner to help your body remember how to heal itself, to let go of the things it doesn't need to hold on to anymore. And in Reiki, the case is it keeps the ki flowing throughout the body, removing any blockages from the energy field. I have a video on the history of Reiki. There is a whole Reiki playlist that I will link here for you, but very a incredibly condensed history of Reiki is that it was founded by Mikhail Usui in Japan. You could say he rediscovered Reiki in a moment of enlightenment under a waterfall. It is a gross oversimplification. He would go on to teach Dr. Hayashi, who would be one of his students, who would also become a Reiki master. And in time, Mrs. Takata, who was living in Hawaii, who was of Japanese descent, went to Japan because she had a bunch of health issues, went to Dr. Hayashi, was treated, was cured, and kind of basically demanded to know how to learn. At the time, a lot of the Reiki masters, I believe, were men. So she was one of the first women Reiki masters. And then she brought it back to the United States, and from there started teaching people in the US. That is a really, really short version of of the history of Reiki. Now, what is PTSD? There's so many definitions and ways to explain it. It was originally coined in the 1980s, and before that, the term that we generally associate is with shell shock. And usually the person has been exposed to death or threats of death, actual threats of serious injury, actual threats of sexual violence. I don't know if this video is going to get flagged. Here's hoping it doesn't. All of these things can happen in various ways: direct exposure, witnessing the trauma, learning that someone close to them was exposed to the trauma, learning the details of an event, or encountering either through explanations or the aftermath of such as in the case of first responders. And the trauma can present in a variety of different ways: unwanted or upsetting memories, nightmares, flashbacks, emotional distress after the exposure to the trauma, or traumatic reminders, physical reactions or reactivity after exposure to the traumatic reminders, along with a variety of forms of symptoms and coping mechanisms that the person develops in order to try to exist in the world. Among these include depression, anxiety, and insomnia, just to name a few. I will if I will post what is the psychiatric definition of PTSD. That might not be the right phrasing, but it's like the manual they put out. There is an actual like definition and like causes and whatnot. It's quite extensive, and really just I dramatically condensed it down for a variety of reasons, because when I was taking notes, I'm like, this is a lot. And if you have PTSD or you know someone with PTSD, you probably don't really need me recounting symptoms. If you're not sure, then please look in the description and you can read through the actual um, medical definition of how it's defined. So the VA does offer a variety of alternative therapies. There is actually a dictionary that you can find that I will post that lists all of the biotherapies, and I believe there is a chart that tells you where they are available. Now, generally among these are things like massage therapy, acupuncture, chiropractic care, things that are definitely proven to help the body, help regain movement. Acupuncture is obviously traditional Chinese medicine, it's pressure points and whatnot. There are a number of I think yoga's offered in a lot of places. I found flyers for like chair yoga or yoga events that were held at different VAs. So that's also something you can look into. The alternative therapies that are offered through the VA are called complementary and integrative health. And they are offered along with your regular doctor's appointments, clinical treatment, self care strategies, and prevention. In most cases, these therapies were used to help in stress reduction or in relation to pain management. Other terms are holistic health, complementary medicine, and normally these type of alternative practices focus on the whole person, depending on the relationship with the practitioner and the client slash patient, as well as substance abuse disorder or substance use disorder. So, how Reiki treats PTSD. One of the things that kind of came up is that there is a lot of inconclusive evidence. They know it works, but trying to explain why it works, how it works, is very difficult because it is, for all intents and purposes, a spiritual practice. And spiritual practices do not fall under the kind of strict guidelines of scientific practices. So, Biofield therapies are based on the idea that beyond being surrounded by energy and vibration, we are energy and vibration. Another way to say it is you are a soul inhabiting a human body. And the nature of how energy and physical reality and the consciousness interconnects is one of the great mysteries of the human existence. There are a number of cultures around the world that have various types of energy work. There is some debate about biofield therapies because there isn't any way to measure the value and there isn't any way to see how the method actually works. But the CDC has found that 0.5% of the US population has used energy medicine in the past year, and 3.7 million Americans have used energy medicine at some point in their lives. 2015 Healthcare Analysis and Information Group survey found that 39 of 131, or 30% of the VA system, offers some form of energy medicine to veterans, up from 7% in 2011. A number of research hasn't really proven one way or another the validity of biofield therapies, but the National Medicine Database also states that there is insufficient reliable evidence to rate it. The biofield therapies research for many conditions, it does rate TT as being possibly effective, and that's therapeutic touch, which is a type of, I want to say it's a type of Reiki. It's not a type of Reiki. It's a type of energy work where you kind of see the person kind of hovering their hands, like moving their hands over a person. If you don't know the difference, it does actually look a lot like Reiki, because Reiki masters will, or Reiki practitioners will move their hands in a very kind of pronounced pattern along the body. I think therapeutic touch is more like, it's more like you're moving energy through the energy field, if that makes any sense. I'm not sure because I've never practiced it. I'm just having flashbacks to a, like, what was it, Entertainment Tonight, or like 60 Minutes special, where I think it was the first time I had ever heard of it, and they were showing like a dramatization of someone using therapeutic touch on her son in the emergency room. Don't ask me what year that's from. That just surfaced from the depths of my memory. Anyway, but yeah, therapeutic touch is being possibly effective for anxiety, pain, and stress. General reviews and studies of the 3 most common biofield therapies are listed in the article. So, general reviews on Reiki from this website. Biofield therapies are relatively free of adverse effects. You should not have any kind of adverse effect from, say, a Reiki treatment or shamanic treatment. I will do a separate video on that. They're not adverse effects. You just may find that you are very emotional at some point. as your body releases and processes, you may find that you have kind of, I don't want to say an emotional outburst. It might be crying. It's usually the biggest thing. You might feel a lot lighter. There might be some tummy troubles or tummy gurgling associated with it as your body is like, all right, cool, we can let this go. Because there's an emotional release, but there's also sometimes a physical release. But I will cover that separately. More research is needed for verification of use. Stress and anxiety exacerbate chronic disease, and energy modalities are effective in helping patients relax. During an energy session, a patient may perceive physical sensations such as tingling, temperature change, pressure, and sensory impressions. Pain should not occur, but there is a possibility of emotional reactions or having memories resurface. Biotherapies can be useful adjunct to other approaches to care, and they can be helpful as standalone therapies, but there's still a lot to learn about them. PTSD is not only experienced by those that have experienced trauma or those affected by trauma, but by those in helping professions like first responders, medical personnel, doctors, nurses, emergency workers, therapists, social workers, reporters, even energy workers themselves, if they accidentally take on too much of their client's energy. Those who go through the events that cause trauma on a personal level, those who are committed to helping others as well as watching others suffering day in and day out, can eat at the soul or the spirit of the ones trying to help. Hope lost and compassion fatigue can set in, which then leads to burnout. The person or people that are trying to help others, including energy workers, can experience this trauma over a long period of time. And the body has three basically stress responses: fight, flight, or freeze. Due to the bodily response, the adrenaline rush, any system that is not needed for survival shuts down, and repeated exposure to stressful circumstances arises. The body tends to stay in survival mode. Not only that, repeated exposure to stress can cause a number of bad habits to develop: excessive smoking, eating, drinking, numbing through drugs, or other maladaptive behaviors. There was a time when war was considered a rite of passage from boyhood to manhood. The ego is put aside for the greater good, which was aided by rituals to prepare for war. When the warriors returned home, they were encouraged to tell their stories, and there were also rituals to help them adjust, cleanse, and heal. And you do actually hear about this on some level in comparison to World War II veterans versus Vietnam veterans, whereas World War II veterans their trip home was a little longer. It took, maybe they had more time to process. They were with other active duty or veterans themselves, and they were able to talk about their experiences, and they were able to share, and they were able to kind of work through a lot of those emotions. Whereas you take Vietnam veterans, I think my dad said they went out by boat to Vietnam and came home by plane. Or yeah. So what took maybe a month to get out there, maybe took a few days, maybe a week to get home because they had to stop along the way. So that's not a lot of time to process. And then you get home and then everybody kind of scatters. I think they landed in California, and from there, everybody just kind of filtered back out. He came back here to Connecticut. A couple people that were going to New York, they traveled together, but then, when they got to California, everyone just branched back out. So there was not that time to process. And I think it was probably even worse for, Desert Storm, Iraq, and Afghanistan. I don't know that they even had that opportunity to sit down with others and process. I don't know if there's as much research done on Korean war vets. I haven't come across anything, but I also didn't really look, so that's my fault. But yeah. But being able to sit down and process and talk talk about it, talk to people who understand. That means a lot because you've had shared experiences, and I don't want to say it's trauma bonding, but it definitely helps when you have someone that has been there. They understand better than, a civilian would. Today, there aren't really the tools in place to help soldiers readjust. The rituals are gone. The methods of war are far more brutal. And while the culture they return to exists in denial or forgetfulness, um, somehow I don't even think it's denial or forgetfulness. I think it's just the Second World War was the last war where there was really any kind of sacrifice. You had the rationing, you had so many industries that were converted to the war effort that you did not find in the modern era. It wasn't as necessary and it wasn't as far reaching. So it's life just carried on. There were no adverse effects. So you do forget and you kind of take for granted what's going on elsewhere in that respect. This could be a contributing factor to PTSD, and PTSD can also lead to an injury of the soul, in which case you may want to consider something like a soul retrieval, which can happen in traumatic events. I will touch very briefly on what that means. So, this is a shamanic belief. I have heard it vaguely mentioned in Reiki, but I know it more personally from shamanism as a shamanic practitioner. The theory is that when the soul goes through traumatic events, bits of the soul break off and leave, or the soul temporarily leaves the body but doesn't come back all the way. Another way I've heard it explained is that doors shut on parts of the soul that need to be reopened. What a soul retrieval does, or what some of these energy work practices do, is they help to the soul to reform and be whole again. And what that does is it allows the person to better heal and to better cope so that whatever they are doing, if it's therapy, if it's therapy and energy work, maybe it's medications, maybe it's physical therapy, whatever they're doing to heal, it's more effective and they are able to release that trauma so that they're not holding on to it. I need to redo the video on what is shamanism, and I will touch on that a lot more in the future, but that's basically what a soul injury is and what a soul retrieval is. PTSD can lead to injury of the soul, and the need to survive dominates the human urge. In times of crisis and trauma, a person will do anything to survive depending on the situation they were put in. The soul knows the difference between good and bad, right and wrong, and a person may have to go against his or her consciousness in order to come out of the situation alive. Um, and it might be challenging to believe in their own worth and goodness afterwards. Shame and guilt may follow, contributing also to the development of PTSD. So there is a method that Reiki practitioners use, and it's called scanning. And what it is we take one of our hands or both of our hands, and scan down the body, and we look to see where there may be blockages. Some people will use a pendulum. So you might have someone go around to all of the major and minor chakras with a pendulum, um, to check and see, what's blocked, what's okay, stuff like that. Where do I need to focus the most of my attention? It can be the area that was actually injured, or it just happens to be where it just settled. It could be the type of injury. So say there loss. You lost someone that was very close to you, depending on the situation, and that settled in the heart chakra. So it could be the chest, the breast area, the lungs, not so much the stomach, although some people might carry that kind of stress in the stomach. So it could be the solar plexus or the sacral chakra as well, where that grief settles, and that sense of loss just settles. Whereas maybe someone that is in an IED explosion, um, and physically lost limbs, it could be that the chakra closest to that is the one that's affected. So if someone lost an arm, it could be the heart chakra that's affected. It could be the throat chakra that was affected. The loss of a leg could be the root chakra or the sacral chakra. Reiki treats the person, not the symptom. And that's why the person comes to you. You need to remember you are treating a person, not a set of symptoms. And you need to see them as a whole person and not focus on the injury. Yes, it is very human to have pity, to have empathy, to feel bad for someone. But you need to do the best you can in the moment to see them as whole. And even if in that moment you do feel bad for them, you have to you have to redirect your thoughts and just see them as a whole shining human being, a whole soul, because that also will aid in their recovery. It can be really hard to explain why Reiki works because it's a spiritual practice, much like meditation, yoga, and Tai Chi, and it's very subjective. It's the realm of mystery and a bit objective as to how it works, but there are a few things that are acknowledged. So in Reiki, there is a very light touch. So by comparison, if you look at massage therapy, where you're really kind of digging into the muscles, you're trying to get them to you're trying to get them to relax, open up. Reiki is a very light touch to no touch. So meaning the hands are either going to hover or you're going to feel a very like gentle touch. You may feel a firm touch if someone feels like they need to put a little bit more pressure, but it's not like someone's going to be needing you and like not that kind of touch. You may also feel like you might feel their hands kind of brushing down you. I have definitely accidentally clipped people with my nails. I've booped people on the nose. It happens, but it's a very light touch. And we are guided to where the energy is supposed to go. So we would generally run through the chakra system and then we might double back and be like, hey, I really need to spend more time at the crown chakra, or oh, the root chakra really needs some help. Oh, the person's having a problem with their knees. There's minor chakra points at the knees, the hands, the feet, the elbows, the shoulders. So it might be that some of the minor chakras need some attention, which will also affect some of the larger chakras. So you might notice that someone is paying a lot of attention to different areas of the body, just trying to remove whatever blockages may be there that they feel at that time. And there are different sensations you might find. You get heat, the feeling of subtle movement. You might get sparky or needly. You might feel that your body becomes more open and feels more comfortable. Pain might diminish. I have had a number of people fall asleep on the table. Go for it. Take a nap. That's what you're here for. You're here to relax. And you might feel areas where there was pain, but I haven't, a Reiki practitioner hasn't touched, where it does feel better. You feel lighter. You feel more open. Um, And Reiki helps with PTSD by calming and stilling the spirit of the person. It promotes relaxation from the outside and reminds the body how it feels to be calm again. The act of sharing Reiki can also remind the body that physical touch can be nurturing and therapeutic. Reiki promotes inner peace and calm, and when the spirit has been calmed and quieted, the physical healing of the body can begin. During the fight or flight response, emotions are often buried in an attempt to assist the person through the traumatic experience. Oftentimes, emotions can get trapped and stored in the body as cellular memory. So, if you find that Reiki is not for you, you may actually like something like the emotion code, where it actually releases trapped emotions. Or even in shamanism and as shamanic practitioners, we go in and we do what's known as an extraction, which is a deeper level of healing than Reiki. start where you feel so inclined. don't don't worry. Just if Reiki is your thing, just stick with that, and then you will evolve as time goes. Through deep relaxation and calming of the spirit, those trapped or buried emotions and trauma can gently be released. The best way to work with clients, if you are a practitioner with PTSD, is the following. Treat the human being first. People are not their diagnosis or their condition. Having an understanding of the condition can help. Reiki acts on priority, however. The energy goes where it's needed most and gives the person what they need most at that moment in time, not what you think they need. So you get what you need, not what you want, not what you want. The person may need physical relaxation, emotional calming, mind clearing, etc. So be prepared to have meditation music playing. Maybe you have to do a guided meditation to help them. Uh, Maybe you have to kind of set the space. You can have music playing. Double check on scents or aromas, because if people have allergies or are particularly sensitive to smell or have whatnot, you maybe don't have an infuser in the room. Maybe something like a humidifier, a water feature, whatever works for you. They may need to release old traumas. Don't assume what they may need. Let the person and their energy guide you to what they need. Reiki helps the body remember how to heal itself, how to release what is no longer needed, and it helps to balance the system. Reiki can be used to treat insomnia and anxiety, and it can help to ease feelings of being overwhelmed. Reiki can also be used by hospital staff. How do you find a Reiki practitioner? If you're going through the VA, they will probably have people that they work with, that they contract out to, and the VA will cover that. If you need to go on your own, YouTube, Instagram, Rumble, TikTok are probably a good way to find practitioners. A lot of us have private practices that as well. You can set up distance healing. Etsy is actually another place that is more of a distance healing thing. Depending on your schedule, depending on your location, maybe that's all that's available to you is getting distance healing if you can't physically get to a practitioner. New age stores are actually good. You can check your local chamber of commerce to see if there are small businesses that are registered. Massage therapists, a lot of them also practice Reiki. There was a practice over here. I think they were massage therapists. I don't know if they were also physical and occupational therapists that also did Reiki. There's a lot of individuals that practice Reiki either out of their homes, they sublet places. You might have to ask around. You could try like spiritualist camps or spiritualist churches. They might have practitioners that they work with. But it's gonna sound really weird. Set the intention and you will find us. And you will find us in a location where you are. Um, that's one. Once you start looking, we will find you or you will find us. However that works. If you want to, if you live in Connecticut, you can send me an email or DM me on Instagram if you want to set up an appointment. I work out of my home and my availability is not the best because I work a 40-hour work week, but I can try. I will do my best. That is an option. How much does it cost? Is probably another thing a lot of you are wondering. It depends. So if you know someone that is learning Reiki, technically they have to be a Reiki level 2 or higher to practice on another person. So in that case, maybe you can get it for free or you can negotiate. Otherwise, I would say, I know I used to charge like $40 when I like first started trying to build up a practice. This was a long time ago. Now it's about 75, 85, I think is the 75 to 85 is the norm. It will very much depend on if the person is working out of their own home and has multiple income streams, or if they are working out of a building, and this is one of their sole income streams. So you might be looking at 100 to maybe 150 or more. Now that is for about an hour and a half worth of time, because we want to make sure that you're settled in and that you have time to recuperate and kind of get your bearings after a session. It depends on where you're going. If you're going to say like a spa, I have heard of some spas charging like 300, maybe $400 for a Reiki session. Also will depend very much on where you are in the country. In Connecticut, it might be a little bit cheaper than if you're in New York City, or if you're in upstate New York, versus Boston or Maine. If you're in the Midwest versus California, the pricing is very much going to have a really wide swing depending on where you're located. That's the other thing. But if you ask around, you can find people that are reasonably priced. So there is a website called Alignable. Um, believe you have to sign up for it. You can't just search it. You could try places like Thumbtack and see if they have it. Um, where small businesses go and list their services. So you might actually be able to find Reiki practitioners or any kind of energy worker there. Holistic stores are another good one, wellness centers. There's a lot of different places that you can kind of poke around and see. There's also, I think, a Reiki registry by state. I will find that and I will put that in the description for you. That you can try and find registered Reiki practitioners. So there's different ways, if you want to find a practitioner, how to find someone and how to find someone that best fits what you are looking for. So I very much hope that this gave you some information. It's probably not as all encompassing as some people maybe would like, but I did the best I could. So I hope you enjoy it. Please leave me any questions that you might have in the comments, and I will do the best I can to answer them. Might take me a little bit if it requires a little bit more research, but I am here for you. Let me know if you have questions. I will be happy to help. All right, take care, my friends, and I wish you the very, very best. And until we meet again, bye.